Did Phil explain why he's speaking out now?
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator. He wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the future.
It's only happening in Long Beach right now as far as me doing something for the community, because that's where my heart lies at as far as straightening out my own neighborhood before I go elsewhere.
What if the most powerful woman in hip-hop wasn't just managing Snoop Dogg's empire, but was secretly building Diddy's? That question, whispered for months inside LA recording circles, has taken on new urgency now that federal investigators are reportedly examining the movements of Shante Broadus, Snoop's longtime wife and business partner. According to multiple insiders familiar with the ongoing FBI probe into Sean Diddy Combs, agents are looking beyond his already explosive trial and into the network of recruiters who allegedly sustained his private parties. And one name, they say, keeps reappearing in call logs, payments, and testimony: Shante's.
That he has, with others, and just because no one else has been charged, which normally in a RICO case you would have others charged. It was a statute that designed to get mob bosses, trying to get at criminal behavior that's like a web of criminal behavior that you can't necessarily prove, like the one thing or the statute of limitations expired on the other thing, but you're just showing this bad guy who's operating what's clearly an enterprise that over and over engages in criminal problems or criminal acts.
We've learned that the FBI's interest in her isn't about her marriage at all. It's about her alleged role as an operator in Diddy's blackmail system, a ring that prosecutors claim used private gatherings to compromise celebrities, executives, and even politicians. During Diddy's 2024 federal trial in New York, witnesses described how women were invited to exclusive after events under false pretenses and later filmed without consent. Investigators now believe a small group of gatekeepers helped make those encounters happen, connecting new faces to Diddy's inner circle. Among them, one witness reportedly referred to the West Coast wife, a phrase prosecutors are now trying to trace directly to Shante. This isn't the first time Shante's proximity to power has drawn attention. Born and raised in Long Beach, she met Snoop when both were teenagers at Polytechnic High School. By the early 1990s, she was his confidant, the quiet architect behind the scenes as he signed with Death Row records and faced a public trial for a violent charge that could have ended his career. When the rapper walked free in 1996, Shante's influence only grew. A year later, they married at the Ritz-Carlton in Marina del Rey, turning their union into one of hip-hop's most visible marriages. But behind the photos and interviews, she was already building what friends called her Boss Lady Network, a brand that, according to resurfaced court documents, may have reached far beyond legitimate entertainment.
He was responsible for Diddy's day-to-day life, so he is able to provide a lot of information about what that life was like. He goes into detail on extensive drug.
In 2003, Shante launched Boss Lady Entertainment, a management and film company that produced Snoop's documentary Reincarnated and operated a sprawling creative complex known as The Compound. Officially, it was a space for artists to record and rehearse. Unofficially, former staff have told reporters it hosted exclusive, invite-only nights, events where phones were collected at the door, and non-disclosure agreements were quietly enforced. During those same years, Diddy's so-called freak-off tapes were being made, recordings prosecutors later described as his method of control over guests. Financial analysts reviewing Diddy's business, accounts have reportedly found that several vendors tied to Boss Lady Entertainment received payments routed through one of Diddy's event firms between 2012 and 2016, the exact window federal prosecutors cite as the height of his blackmail operation. To understand why that link matters, we have to look at Shante's evolution from supportive spouse to corporate powerhouse. In June 2021, she officially became Snoop's manager, overseeing his partnerships in spirits, gaming, and media, industries Diddy had dominated for decades. Snoop called her his final gut check in all major decisions. Yet, emails introduced at Diddy's trial suggest she was also communicating with his assistants about talent coordination, often using coded language referring to guest, experiences, and brand alignment. Former insiders claim those terms were shorthand for the kind of private meetings Diddy used to collect leverage on other stars. If accurate, that would place Shante not on the sidelines, but in the control booth.
The few, like if we really dig, I believe we're going to find probably 3 or 4 dudes over the years that she had long-term side.
Publicly, she cultivated the opposite image. Interviews painted her as the grounding force in Snoop's chaotic world, a mother of 3, grandmother of 6, and a woman who once vetoed a $100 million OnlyFans offer because, as Snoop put it, ain't no way in the world she can allow me to go on there and pull that thing out. That moral certainty made her a symbol of stability in a genre known for excess. But the contradiction deepened when Suge Knight, speaking from prison on his Collect Call podcast in February 2024, implied she had been seen in Hawaii with another man during a period when Snoop was filming overseas. Snoop dismissed it with a short post, praying for that brother. Knight retaliated hours later with the accusation that would shake the fan base. I'll pray your wife stops going to Hawaii with other men. At the time, many dismissed it as another of Knight's provocations. Yet now, investigators are reportedly re-examining the same travel dates, comparing them with Diddy's known movements. Flight manifests show both Diddy's assistant and a Boss Lady entertainment staffer on flights from LA to Honolulu within that same week. Whether coincidence or coordination, it adds another layer to a growing pattern, Shantae appearing wherever Diddy's inner circle assembled. Her professional timeline makes the overlap impossible to ignore. Boss Lady Entertainment expanded aggressively between 2013 and 2018, acquiring partnerships with music festivals and luxury brands, many of which later appeared in Diddy's sponsored events. In 2021, as Diddy's legal troubles intensified, she took complete control of Snoop's business empire, handling deals across the same categories, spirits, fashion, and streaming, that prosecutors now describe as laundering fronts for Diddy's operations. The public narrative cast her as a trailblazer for Black women executives. Behind the curtain, insiders say she was using that access to identify talent and influencers that Diddy could invite.
Find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway, so be interesting.
What makes the accusation even more disturbing is how seamlessly it fits into the pattern uncovered in Diddy's case. Witnesses described assistants who would target women at festivals, brand parties, and studio events, promising exposure in exchange for networking opportunities. According to one sealed deposition, a West Coast female executive was praised for her ability to read a room and find the right energy. Prosecutors have yet to name her publicly, but her initials, SB, match those on several of the recovered scheduling documents. For years, Shantae Broaddus's public reputation shielded her from suspicion. When Snoop Dogg was sued in 2022 over an alleged assault dating back to 2013, she reportedly managed the crisis personally, arranging settlements and controlling press access. Colleagues say she handled it with the same calm efficiency she used in business negotiations. But now, those same skills are being reframed as evidence of something darker, a pattern of protecting powerful men from accountability. Even more troubling, forensic accountants are tracing transfers from Boss Lady Entertainment into shell companies that overlap with Diddy's accounts used for his private travel and security retainers.
When you get to be the age that we are and you get to become as successful as we are, you have to start doing some things that matter for the future.
The compound itself has become a focal point. Located in Los Angeles, it's long been a creative hub where Kendrick Lamar, Cardi B, and Wiz Khalifa have recorded. Yet, several guests now claim the studio doubled as an after-hours venue for elite gatherings resembling the same format as Diddy's New York penthouse parties. Exclusive, camera-free, and invitation-only. If those stories prove true, it means compromising material might have been collected not just on the East Coast, but on the West, and that Shantae may have been the gatekeeper. If Shantae was helping Diddy trap celebrities, the question isn't just what she did, it's what Snoop knew and whether he benefited from it. His career has thrived through decades of scandal, surviving lawsuits, rumors, and feuds. Yet his financial success has always been intertwined with his wife's management. If her deals are under federal review, the entire Snoop Dogg brand could face exposure. Already, sources close to the investigation say accountants are combing through her 2021 partnership contracts and cross-checking them with payments identified in Diddy's seized ledgers. Industry. Whispers suggest that agents have retrieved encrypted messages linking Shantae to Diddy's event staff, including instructions about discretion logistics for unnamed gatherings in Los Angeles and Miami. If verified, those exchanges could transform her from background figure to central player. The implications reach far beyond the Diddy case. touching entertainment executives who once worked with both empires and now fear being named. As one source put it, "The FBI doesn't target the wives of legends unless they're about to bring down the legend himself. This isn't just about Shantae's potential arrest, and it's about the collapse of Snoop Dogg's entire empire. If the FBI concludes that her company served as a conduit for Diddy's blackmail network, the fallout won't stop with one woman. It could dismantle the entire business machine that Snoop and Shantae spent 30 years building, from their Long Beach roots to their streaming deals and brand partnerships. Because for the first time, investigators are asking the question the industry long avoided. How deep did the financial connection between Snoop and Diddy really run?"
Sentence is going to be, but today he found out what prosecutors would like that sentence to be, and it is vastly different from what his attorneys have suggested to the judge. Prosecutors want him to do 11 years, just over 11 years.
We've seen this pattern before. In 2024, when Diddy was convicted of transporting women across state lines for so-called parties, prosecutors described a meticulous system of recruitment, payment, and silence. They said Diddy controlled people not with force, but with leverage, private recordings, financial favors, and promises of access. Now, insiders claim Shantae's role was to choose who entered that system. Using her power as Snoop's manager, she could open doors no one else could, handpicking guests who thought they were walking into networking events, but instead found themselves in Diddy's web of influence. Financial analysts working with federal agents have already mapped payments from Diddy's entertainment companies to Boss Lady Entertainment between 2012 and 2016, totaling several $100,000. The paperwork listed them as event consulting fees, but those years correspond precisely with the time frame prosecutors called the peak of his leverage, operations. So we have to ask, were those payments legitimate business transactions, or were they the hidden fuel behind a much darker trade? Was Snoop's success in those years, his television ventures, his major endorsements, indirectly funded by Diddy's empire of control?
The turmoil and the stuff that I put her through in my journey on becoming successful, because I had no understanding of what I was doing her, how I was hurting her.
Even more unsettling is how perfectly Shantae Broaddus's public narrative seems to anticipate these accusations. In 2021, she announced her memoir Paid the Cost to be the Boss Lady, describing herself as a loyal wife who learned to navigate fame while staying grounded. Reading those pages now feels almost strategic, as if she were shaping her defense years in advance. She wrote of turning pain into purpose and standing tall through the storm. At the time, it sounded like motivational language. But in light of Suge Knight's claims that she was traveling under false pretenses and meeting unidentified partners in Hawaii, those same lines read more like coded admissions of a double life. Industry veterans remember that year vividly. Diddy's influence was still unshaken, and Snoop Dogg's brand was at its highest value since the 1990s. Together, they dominated music, spirits, and media. But sources close to the label say Shantae's relationships went beyond friendly networking. One former road manager insists she acted as the go-between whenever Diddy needed introductions to new talent or investors from the West Coast scene. Her charm disarmed them. Her reputation made them trust her. What none of them suspected, according to the same source, was that those introductions sometimes led to private invitations, sealed with strict NDA agreements.
So Diddy, after the Cassie lawsuit, gets hit with a bunch of lawsuits, and then ultimately the raids, and then...
If that claim proves true, the financial consequences will be devastating. Under RICO statutes, prosecutors can treat a family-run company as part of a criminal organization if they show overlapping funds or shared intent. That means if Shantae is indicted, federal agents could freeze or seize assets tied to her, including joint accounts with her husband. For a man whose image is built on luxury and loyalty, the optics alone could end multi-million-dollar partnerships overnight. People close to the couple tell us that Snoop's 2004 divorce filing now looks very different in hindsight. At the time, he blamed fame and temptation, but one associate says the real reason was fear. Fear that his wife's growing closeness to Diddy would expose things Snoop himself wanted buried. He eventually withdrew the filing and renewed his vows. Yet that move may have been less about reconciliation and more about containment. Staying married meant keeping her within his circle of influence, and under marital privilege, a legal shield that could prevent her from testifying against him. Then came the leaks from Diddy's trial. Fragments of encrypted messages showed a contact identified as SB, advising Diddy's assistant on how to frame the narrative after damaging stories broke. The timing aligns with Diddy's 2018 LA parties and the first wave of online accusations. In one message, she allegedly wrote, "I'll handle the press family style. You know, I've done it before." The network hasn't confirmed the identity behind those initials, but the phrasing sounds uncomfortably familiar to anyone who's read Shantae's own public statements.
We can all have a grown-up discussion, and I don't think we need to cancel a longtime musical artist related to it. It was controversial at the time when they considered pulling it, and I guess this movie can't be shown in some countries. But honestly, it's really innocuous content to me.
We can't ignore how many of Snoop's biggest career shifts coincided with Diddy's crises. When Diddy's business partners began facing lawsuits, Snoop pivoted to family-friendly television and branding deals, reinventing himself as the lovable uncle of hip-hop. It was a masterclass in rebranding, but some analysts now suspect those moves were strategic diversions, designed to distance him from whatever was happening inside Diddy's circles. Shantae, as both manager and spouse, orchestrated that transition. If she was working both sides, she effectively built Snoop's redemption arc while safeguarding Diddy's secrets. Documents obtained from Boss Lady Entertainment reveal unusual overseas transfers in 2015 labeled consulting fees from entities later linked to Diddy's European affiliates. That same year, Snoop acquired new luxury properties and expanded his media holdings. The pattern is clear, even if the explanation isn't. Meanwhile, insiders claim the FBI has reopened at least one file from Snoop's past legal troubles, cross-referencing his witnesses with names found in Diddy's seized contact lists. If they discover overlap, the implications could stretch across 3 decades of music history. Former colleagues are reportedly cooperating, hoping for immunity. They describe a network of shared lawyers, accountants, and event planners who blurred the line between business and blackmail. And through it all, Shantae's public demeanor has remained steady. She continues posting family photos, promoting her upcoming projects, and speaking softly about legacy and resilience. But those close to the case say that behind the scenes, she's already retained 2 new attorneys specializing in federal racketeering defense. For someone long seen as the moral compass of the Snoop Dogg brand, that move suggests she's preparing for something far larger than a media scandal. If a grand jury names her, the FBI could treat her as both participant and witness, someone who knows enough to bring down others. That's why the mood in Hollywood's inner circles has turned anxious. Executives who once celebrated her business acumen now fear their own messages or payments could resurface. And Snoop Dogg himself, the man who built his legend on loyalty and survival, might soon be forced to choose between defending his wife or protecting his empire. We've seen what happens when celebrity dynasties face federal scrutiny. Assets vanish, friendships fracture, reputations collapse overnight. But this case feels different. It touches the roots of hip-hop royalty, the marriages, the alliances, the unspoken debts. If prosecutors can prove that Shantae's influence extended into Diddy's operations, the entire balance of power in the culture could shift.
Court has just ended, and I'm just getting word right now that we are hearing that Kid Cudi, who is going to be an important witness in this case, that he possibly is going to take the stand tomorrow. So that's going to be interesting testimony, because this is a situation in which Sean Combs had said that he was jealous and accusing Cassie Ventura of cheating on him with Kid Cudi. So that's
because Snoop Dogg built his legacy on loyalty. Every lyric, every interview, every brand deal carries that image of devotion to family, to community, to truth. But if his wife's arrest proves she was loyal to Diddy instead, then the biggest name in hip-hop might not be a rapper at all. It might be a federal witness. And that raises a question we never thought we'd ask. When the empire falls, who will be the first to speak? Snoop, Shantae Broaddus, or the government holding their secrets? Tell us what you believe. Is this the moment the curtain finally lifts on hip-hop's hidden hierarchy, or just another distraction before the next scandal hits? Stay tuned, stay sharp, and until the next drop, keep your eyes open. The story isn't over yet.